Carbondale has always been a community where people care for each other. Donald and Dorothy Hoyle taught their children that lesson as they were growing up, and it's a lesson that has resonated with them for their entire lives. Donald A. Hoyle Jr. was the second oldest of 6 children. The family lived on Drummond Avenue, and their large yard was perfect for Dad to tend a garden so that Mom could can the tomatoes, corn, beans, and other vegetables that would help the family get through the winter months. It was a neighborhood and a community where everyone looked out for each other.
Everybody was close. All the neighbors, we could walk in anybody's house. Everybody was close. And we do things for everybody, for each other.
Don and his brother Ralph were only 18 months apart, and as youngsters did many things together. They both loved sports, and by the 5th grade had found the Carbondale YMCA as a place where they could grow. They worked as pin setters in the Y's bowling alley and later got involved in organized sports at the Y, including basketball, volleyball, and the swim team. Don attended Carbondale schools and got involved heavily in sports. His uncles were baseball players and drew him into the game.
There was times when I'd go down, my grandparents and my uncle, especially my Uncle Alex and my Uncle Raleigh, they were professional pitchers. And they'd throw the glove at you, the catcher's mitt. It was pretty worn out. We'd go in the backyard, they'd throw that at me, and they'd throw the ball 95 miles an hour. I was afraid they were going to hit me in the head. You know?
During the high school years at Ben Franklin, Don was more interested in football, and in his senior year was named co-captain of the team. Although he was very active in school activities, including being voted most popular and a member of the Honor Society, he never considered himself a good student.
I didn't study at all. I never took a book home, never did.
After graduation, Don wanted to join the Air Force and become a pilot, but because of poor eyesight, was told he would never be able to fly. As fate would have it, though, 2 days later he was offered a job as a clerk inspector for the Gas and Water Company.
They offered me a job, and my parents needed help with my sisters, and they needed the money. Okay. So I'd give the money to my mother all the time.
2 years later, while visiting his girlfriend who worked at the First National Bank of Carbondale, he was offered a job and thus began a long and successful banking career. Don's interest in business led him to take night classes at the Wharton School of Finance, the University of Scranton, the American Institute of Banking, and management courses at Rutgers University. Don's love of the Carbondale Y continued through the 50s, and he played a lot of basketball on the Y's traveling team, challenging other organized teams throughout the region.
Two of my friends on it were Bill Farber Sr. and Bill Davis. And the 3 of us ended up to be bank presidents.
Don and Betty Swindlehurst were married in 1956 and became the parents of 2 girls. At that time, Don's interest in serving his country led him to join the National Guard in 1957, attaining the rank of Staff Sergeant. Don's love of the community also meant the arts. The Hoyle family was always involved in music. From an early age, Don and his sister Judy took piano lessons, and the whole family, including aunts and uncles, were singers. They sang at many fundraising events, and Don, beginning in 1963, began playing piano and organ at churches throughout the community, a role which he continues today. Don became involved in many organizations: the Board of Directors of Carbondale General and Marion Community Hospital, Scranton Industrial Development Company, Northeastern Pennsylvania Philharmonic, and the Scranton Chamber of Commerce. The one thing that was a constant, however, was his love for the Y.
It was part of my life. I mean, the Y was part of my life. I mean, as a kid, grew up through that whole thing.
He would work out at the Y every Saturday, ultimately becoming a board member and board president in 1976. Although there was a plan to build a new Y behind the Benmar restaurant, they were not able to raise enough funds, so they borrowed money from the First National Bank of Carbondale to build a new building adjacent to the original Y. The plan was to repay the loan with pledges, but the economy was heading for a rough time, and the pledges were not enough to cover loan payments. Don was an officer of the bank at the time and went to the bank's board of directors. He recommended that the bank make a contribution to the Y for the outstanding balance on the loan because the Y was an integral part of the community. The request was approved and the Y became debt-free. Don's banking career saw a climb up the ladder from teller to branch manager to president. His success included growing the bank from 8 offices to 20, from 80 employees to 200, and assets at the bank doubled during his tenure. He also introduced such new innovations as supermarket banks and Mac machines. Don was remarried to Susan Muir, has a son, and continues his service to the community. For Don Hoyle, it's all about the lessons he learned as a child and has passed on to his family. Carbondale has always been a community where people care for each other. It's also a lesson that he's imparted to all of us through his lifelong actions.
I'd like to thank everybody that came here tonight to celebrate this occasion. I'd like to thank the board of directors of the YMCA for selecting me as one of the honorees. I would like to congratulate the other members, or the other people that are being honored here tonight. I've enjoyed all of my years here at the Y. They've been so precious to me. And I can't believe that I'm this old right now, because I still feel like I wish I could go down there and do the things I used to do in the past, play basketball and go swimming and all those things. But that's life. Anyway, thank you for having me here tonight.